Welcome to another episode of In the Middle. Today we're going to explore a deeply personal theme, feeling like a foreigner in your own country. I am your host, Eddie Minaya. I'm a creative professional living in the DC area. I'm originally from Peru, and I've lived here for the last 35 years. Many of us who've lived abroad for years may find ourselves feeling like strangers when we return to our home countries. The landscape evolved, culture has shifted, and we in a way have become foreigners in our own land. Well, it happened to me, and I'm not sure why I felt it this time. In November of this year, so just last month, my family and I traveled to Lima, Peru, where I'm from. This is the city where I was born and the city where I grew up until the age of 13. This time around, about 22 people from a family that live here in the United States traveled together for a party, so it was nice to see them all in one place. I have to say that it was I can't remember the last time that all my family was in one place like this, the family that lives here in the United States, in Peru at the same time. So it was probably more than 40 years ago. So it was nice to see everyone over there. I took the time this time to show my wife where I grew up, the house where I used to live, the neighborhood where I used to hang out, the places that still exist that I used to go to. It was somewhat of a nostalgic trip. There were many things that reminded me of my dad, who never moved here to the United States and that passed away over 20 years ago. I did have a lot of memories from the food I ate, from the smells that I smelled, the noises that I heard, and all those little things that trigger memories. But it was extremely nice. I took my mom for coffee, for breakfast, to the stores, things that maybe we did together when I was a kid. But this time it was like 35 years later now, me being 35 years older than when I left. My wife and I even went to a park called Kennedy Park every day. This is a park where a lot of cats live. And people take care of the cats, and we went to feed them and hang out with them every day, every morning. And even though I know the streets, I know when I was, walking around the different neighborhoods, or at least the area where we were staying, I knew the direction that we needed to go. I still felt out of place. I felt like a foreigner on the place that I was born. So, do you feel the same way when you go back to the country that you're from? Very few things remain the same. So many new things have been integrated to the city: new stores, new construction, new buildings, new traffic patterns, different ways to commute. I mean, Lima looked very different this time around. And I asked myself, can I see myself living there? I asked that question when I was over there, and the answer is that if I had to, or if I would be going there for work, I think it would take a lot for me to get used to it. Even though I'm fluent in Spanish, words or slang that was said to me, I was like, what does that mean? It felt that I couldn't be 100% relaxed. I felt that I had to always look behind to see if people were following me, to pickpocket, or I'm not sure. I just couldn't relax. Look, we stay in an area called Miraflores, which is a very safe neighborhood. And for the most part, what I saw in Lima seems to be at least the parts that I was this time, seems very safe. There was a lot of tourists in Miraflores, which is the city where we stayed at. But I still felt on edge, like I was out of place the entire time. I felt that if we walk too far away from certain neighborhoods, like we could, are we going to get? I asked myself, are we going to get robbed? And just like here, their local news is also about people getting robbed, killed, kidnapped, all the bad news, which sometimes scares you more to go out. But I did, and we had a good time. However, I have to say that even though I was on edge, I don't think I was ever in danger. So if you're planning to go to Peru, you should go. It felt like a very safe city. So please don't, it's just how I felt, that I felt on edge, but it was a very safe city. So let's also talk about this change I noticed, this big change I've noticed from the last time. Besides, we've all heard that there's a lot of people from Venezuela migrating out of the country, and we hear that coming to the United States. But perhaps if you haven't been following the news, there's a lot of Venezuelans, also a big movement that people are going to South America. Apparently the countries where they're going the most is Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And most Uber drivers were from Venezuela in Lima. Lots of workers in the service industry, like hotels, restaurants, stores, were Venezuelan. For a moment, I would start hearing all of these, Venezuelan accents, and I was like, where am I? Because the last time I visited Peru was like in 2018, and unless you were a tourist, it was rare to hear somewhat different accents in Spanish from other countries, from people that were living and working there. Now imagine the struggle of those who moved to countries like Peru from Venezuela. Now, even though they speak the same language fluently, they still feel like outsiders. Despite the linguistic familiarity, and the challenge to fit in it is real. Cultural differences, social structures, unspoken rules creates a sense of displacement. So I asked several of the Uber drivers if they felt welcome. How long when they first arrived to Peru, and if they feel welcome now that they live there. I asked them how long they've been there, and if they thought of what do they think about Venezuelans, the bigger wave that is happening now, moving to Peru. How do they think everything is everybody fitting in? The answers were a little surprising. Apparently, the migration started of Venezuelans. I guess this migration of people moving to countries like Peru in 2019, and when this first started to happen, they were very welcome. The government gave them permits to work. The local Peruvian people took compassion, and they saw them as friends. However, this has now shifted, and apparently this happened over the last few years. There's a combination of, apparently there's a wave of Venezuelans that have been migrating to Peru, and the Venezuelans that are going don't seem to be the hardworking people. Instead, are people that either have been in prison or people that are, with criminal backgrounds. Sounds familiar? I mean, this is it. As he was, the Uber driver was telling me this. It was interesting to hear that, because I can relate. We hear this on the news about, there's a lot of people, illegal immigrants coming to the United States, and that they're bad people. A lot of a lot of people that are criminals, and sometimes it is true. However, sometimes it's not all of them. But once those sort of people start to come or migrate to countries like here or in Peru, it starts to give a bad name all the way across. What I also saw in Peru, what I heard from some of the Uber drivers that were from Venezuela, is that at first Peruvians were pretty welcoming of Venezuelan, and they were kind of acquiring, kind of getting themselves into the acquainted to the culture, to the people, to the society, to the Lima society. But then, as this bigger wave of Venezuelans has come, there now has been a shift, and now even the people from Lima are saying, well, they're taking our jobs, and they're making the country worse, which also I can relate to, because obviously those are things that we hear here in the United States about illegal immigration and people coming to the United States in the last 4 or 5 years. So as a foreigner, I relate. We hear this here in the United States. So I felt compassion for them. I think the other challenge they run into is that lots of Venezuela, a lot of these Venezuelans that are going they are creating criminal gangs, and they're charging businesses for protection, things that that it needs to be controlled in one way or another way, but that is giving the bad name to the ones that are there to work, the ones that are there that want to work and they want to do something to themselves, which to me the sound is so familiar, because that happens here in the United States. Another question I asked them, the Uber driver, which is most of them, as I mentioned, were Venezuelan, is that they felt that the Peruvian culture and the Venezuelan culture had some similarities. If fitting in was difficult. And I don't know much about the Venezuelan culture besides some of the food, but apparently there's a lot of differences. A few of the Uber drivers told me the same thing. The people in Lima seem a little colder, that they seem to be always in a hurry, and they don't want to talk to you, for small talk. They don't do that. And they're not as friendly. I guess because it's the capital, it's a bigger city, they feel that people in Venezuela are warmer among each other when they talk to each other, in the way they talk to each other and treat each other. So I thought that was an interesting comparison. Now I know I covered 2 topics, so let me ask you, how do you feel when you go back to the country that you're from? Do you feel like an outsider? Could you live in that country again? Respond in the comments with your opinions and thoughts. And if you're interested in being in one of these episodes, please send me a message. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of In the Middle. Until next time, embrace your journey.